Elder Jean stood on the crystal platform high above the blue waters of Veltar. His people had lived in peace for thousands of years. The Villani had never fought wars. They had never built weapons. They spent their days studying art and science, while their crystal cities floated like jewels above the ocean. Today was different. Black ships filled the sky like a swarm of angry insects. The Kronak had come to their world. Jean watched in horror as the alien vessels opened fire on the cities. Shields. The energy barriers that had protected his people for centuries began to crack and spark. The insect-like aliens wanted to eat everything on Veltar. They would consume the cities, the oceans, and every living creature until nothing remained but empty rock. The first shield collapsed with a sound like breaking glass. Kronak fighters poured through the gap, their weapons tearing holes in the crystal towers. Villani civilians ran screaming through the streets as buildings crumbled around them. "Send the message," Jean told his communication officer. "Broadcast it to every world in the galaxy." The young Villani's hands shook as he activated the hyperspace transmitter. "Any species capable of military help, please respond. The Kronak are destroying our world. We offer all our technology and knowledge to anyone who can save us." The message flew through space faster than light, reaching every corner of the galaxy. On military stations and government buildings across 1,000 worlds, alien leaders read the desperate plea. The Thaxan Empire received the message first. General Krex looked at the tactical display showing Kronak fleet strength and shook his massive head. 300 bioships. Even our best warriors could not defeat such numbers. Send regrets to the Villani. The Altarian Federation debated for exactly 12 minutes before deciding the risk was too great. The Zephyrin Collective calculated the odds of victory at less than 3% and declined to respond. One by one, every major military power in the galaxy turned away from the Villani cry for help. The message traveled to the outer rim of known space, where most civilized species feared to go. In a system marked as forbidden on every star chart, a small monitoring station orbited a blue and green world. The planet was listed in galactic databases as a Class 12 death world, a place where evolution had gone mad and created the most dangerous creatures in the universe. Lieutenant Jake Morrison sat at his console reading intercepted alien transmissions when the Villani distress call appeared on his screen. He read it once, then twice, then a third time. His hands began to shake, not from fear, but from rage. Jake had been monitoring galactic communications for 5 years. He had listened to the chatter of alien civilizations who thought they were alone in the universe. He had heard about wars and treaties and trade agreements between species that humanity had never met. Most importantly, he had heard about genocide. 3 times in the past decade, peaceful species had sent out desperate calls for help as aggressive aliens destroyed their worlds. 3 times, the so-called civilized galaxy had ignored those pleas. Jake had been forced to watch and listen as entire species were wiped out, while their neighbors did nothing. "Not this time," he whispered, reaching for the emergency communication array. The signal traveled from the monitoring station to a massive space dock hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon. Admiral Lisa Stone was reviewing fleet readiness reports when the priority message arrived. She opened the file and felt her blood turn to ice. Lisa had spent 30 years protecting human colonies from pirates, raiders, and worse. She had seen what happened when predators found easy prey. The photos attached to the Villani message showed crystal cities burning and civilians running from alien monsters. It reminded her of the history books she had studied as a child, filled with images of humanity's darkest moments. "Get me fleet command," she ordered her aide. "Emergency session. All captains to report immediately." Within 2 hours, every human warship captain within 3 systems had gathered in the briefing room aboard the UES Vengeance. Captain Ryan Blake of the UES Reaper sat next to Commander Kate Fisher of the UES Harbinger. 12 other ship commanders filled the remaining seats. Admiral Stone activated the holographic display showing the Veltar system. The images were not pretty. Kronak bioships swarmed around the Villani homeworld like parasites feeding on a dying host. Massive organic vessels attached themselves to the crystal cities, draining them of resources while processing the population into food. The Villani are a peaceful species, Lisa explained. They have never built military ships or trained soldiers. The Kronak will consume their entire civilization within days if no one helps them. Captain Blake studied the tactical display. What about the other species? Surely someone with a larger fleet can handle this better than we can. Lisa's expression turned grim. The Thaxon Empire declined. The Altarian Federation declined. Every major power has refused to help. They all say the risk is too great. How many Kronak ships? Asked Commander Fisher. 300 bioships, each one the size of a small city, plus support vessels and fighter swarms. We would be outnumbered 6-1. The room fell silent. Every captain understood what those numbers meant. It would be a suicide mission by any rational calculation. 57 human warships against 300 alien vessels designed for destruction. Ryan Blake leaned back in his chair. Admiral, you did not call us here to discuss whether we should help the Villani. You called us here to plan how we are going to help them. Lisa smiled for the first time in hours. Correct, Captain. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to Veltar as peacekeepers or negotiators. We are going there to show the galaxy what happens when predators hunt innocent people. She changed the display to show Earth, the blue and green world that galactic civilization considered too dangerous to visit. The other species think they know what it means to fight for survival. They have never seen what creatures from a death world can do when they fight for something more important than survival. Commander Fisher raised her hand. What is more important than survival, Admiral? Lisa looked at each captain in turn. The knowledge that some things are worth dying for. The Kronak think they are the ultimate predators in this galaxy. It is time they learned they are wrong. The vote was unanimous. Every captain volunteered their ship and crew for the mission. They knew the odds were terrible. They knew most of them would probably die. But they also knew that sometimes doing the right thing mattered more than living through it. As the captains filed out to prepare their ships, Admiral Stone remained behind to stare at the tactical display. In 12 hours, the human fleet would jump to hyperspace and travel to a distant world to fight aliens they had never met in order to save a species they barely knew. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world. They were about to discover what kind of creatures evolved in a place where everything tried to kill everything else. Most importantly, they were about to find out what happened when those creatures decided that something was worth protecting. The human fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system looked nothing like the elegant vessels used by other galactic civilizations. Where alien ships curved and flowed with artistic beauty, human warships were built for one purpose only: to kill efficiently and without mercy. Commander Alex Turner walked through the corridors of the UES Storm, checking systems before the jump to hyperspace. His destroyer was smaller than the massive alien bioships they would face, but it carried weapons that violated 6 different galactic treaties on humane warfare. Not that humans had signed any of those treaties. Alex stopped at the weapons bay, where Chief Petty Officer Nancy Wright was running final checks on the kinetic harpoons. The weapons looked primitive compared to alien energy beams, but they had been designed specifically to tear through living tissue. When the storm got close enough to a Kronak bioship, these harpoons would punch through the creature's hide and release expanding barbs that would rip it apart from the inside. "How are we looking, Chief?" Alex asked. Nancy smiled as she patted the nearest weapon. "These babies are hungry for some bug meat, Commander. The Kronak won't know what hit them." On the bridge of the UES Fury, Captain Sam Rodriguez reviewed intelligence reports about Kronak tactics. The insect aliens fought like a hive mind, with perfect coordination between all their ships. Every vessel moved in formation, every weapon fired at precisely calculated intervals. It was efficient and predictable. Sam had spent years studying every military engagement in galactic history. She knew how the Thaxon fought with honor and ceremony. She understood Altarian battle formations that prioritized protecting their own ships. Every species in the galaxy fought according to rules and traditions that made sense to civilized minds. Humans fought like the predators they were. The UES Reaper completed its final supply run from the lunar shipyards. Captain Ryan Blake watched as the last cargo containers were loaded into his ship's hold. Unlike other species who relied on supply lines and logistics, Human warships carried everything they needed to fight independently for months. Ryan's ship was a heavy cruiser designed for close combat. While alien vessels preferred to fight at long range with energy weapons, the Reaper carried cutting beams and plasma rams meant for tearing enemy ships apart at point-blank range. The hull was covered in reactive armor that could absorb tremendous damage while the ship closed to killing distance. "Captain," called his weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl Peterson. "All systems show green. The cutting beams are charged and ready." Ryan nodded. The cutting beams were another human innovation that horrified alien military observers. Instead of trying to destroy enemy ships cleanly, the beams were designed to slice through hulls and create massive decompression breaches. It was brutal and effective. Admiral Lisa Stone stood on the command deck of the UES Vengeance, watching as the last ships reported ready for departure. 57 human warships hung in space like sleeping predators, each one crewed by volunteers who had chosen possible death over certain dishonor. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Jenny Adams, "all ships report ready for jump. Fleet is standing by for your orders." Lisa looked at the tactical display one more time. In 6 hours, they would reach Veltar and face odds that any sane military commander would consider hopeless. 300 Kronak bioships against 57 human vessels. By every calculation, it should be a massacre. The aliens had made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed humans would fight like every other species in the galaxy. They expected formation attacks, honor duels, and retreat when losses became too heavy. The Kronak were about to learn that humans had no concept of acceptable losses when innocent lives were at stake. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," Lisa announced over the fleet communication network. "In 6 hours, we will engage a force that outnumbers us 6-1. The enemy expects us to fight like civilized beings with rules and mercy. We are going to disappoint them." She paused, thinking about the desperate message from Elder Jean and the images of Vellani civilians fleeing from Kronak weapons. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to Veltar to win a glorious victory. We are going there to commit xenocide. We are going to kill every single Kronak in that system, and we are going to do it with such thoroughness that their hive mind will fear the very concept of humans for generations to come." The fleet jumped to hyperspace as one, 57 ships disappearing in flashes of twisted light. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around a yellow star, looking peaceful and harmless to any alien observer. The galaxy was about to learn that appearances could be deceiving. During the hyperspace journey, human crews made final preparations that would have shocked their alien counterparts. While other species used travel time for rest and meditation, humans spent the hours planning maximum destruction. Every ship ran combat drills designed around one principle: kill the enemy faster than they can kill you. On the UES Lightning, Lieutenant Commander Ben Foster reviewed the tactical data his ship's computers had compiled on Kronak bioships. The living vessels were tough and could regenerate minor damage, but they had one critical weakness. Like all living things, they needed certain organs to survive. Ben's ship carried experimental gravitational weapons that could collapse space-time in small areas. Used correctly, they could crush vital organs inside a bioship while leaving the hull intact. It was precise, efficient, and absolutely terrifying to any species that understood the technology. "Sir," called his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Brooks. "The gravitational weapons are calibrated for maximum internal damage. We can kill a bioship without even damaging its exterior." On the planet Veltar, Elder Jean watched Kronak ground forces marching through the ruins of his city. The insect warriors moved with mechanical precision, gathering Vellani civilians for processing into organic matter. His people screamed as they were herded into conversion chambers where they would be dissolved alive and transformed into food for the hive. The old Vellani checked his communication device one more time, hoping for any response to their desperate plea for help. The device remained silent. Every civilized species in the galaxy had abandoned them to their fate. Jean did not know that help was already on the way. He could not have imagined that somewhere in the darkness between stars, 57 ships full of creatures from a death world were racing toward his system with murder in their hearts. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system. Immediately, every sensor went active, painting the Kronak positions with targeting data. The alien formation was exactly as expected. 300 bioships arranged in perfect geometric patterns around the dying world. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. Lisa's voice cut through the tactical chatter. Remember, we are not here to defeat the Kronak. We are here to exterminate them. No survivors, no mercy, no quarter given. These creatures chose to prey on the innocent. Now they get to meet the real apex predators. The Kronak detected the human fleet immediately. Their response was predictable. Launch fighters, form defensive formations, prepare for conventional space combat. The hive mind calculated odds and determined that victory was certain against such a small force. The insects were about to learn that humans did not fight conventional space battles. Admiral Stone smiled as she watched the enemy formations on her tactical display. The Kronak had positioned themselves exactly where human battle doctrine wanted them, clustered together, following predictable patterns, completely unprepared for what was about to happen. All ships, she ordered. Begin the hunt. The first wave of Kronak fighters launched from the bioships in perfect formation. 2,000 insect drones moved like a single organism, their weapons charging as they approached the human fleet. The hive mind calculated attack vectors and firing solutions with mathematical precision. The humans did not respond the way the Kronak expected. Instead of forming defensive lines or launching their own fighters, the human ships scattered in all directions. Each vessel moved independently, following no pattern the alien hive mind could understand. Some ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet at full speed. Others drifted sideways while powering up strange weapons. A few actually turned their backs to the approaching fighters. Commander Alex Turner pushed the UES Storm through a spiral dive that would have killed any other species from the gravitational forces. Human bodies were built to survive on a world where everything tried to crush, poison, or eat them. The acceleration that liquefied alien crews merely made humans uncomfortable. Target the command cluster, Alex ordered his weapons officer. Fire gravitational weapons on my mark. The Storm's experimental weapons charged with a sound like reality tearing. Space-time began to twist around the ship as the gravitational generators reached full power. The Kronak fighters trying to intercept the human destroyer suddenly found themselves caught in fields of warped gravity that crushed their ships like insects under a boot. Lieutenant Commander Ben Foster watched, his tactical display as the gravitational weapons reached the first bioship. The massive living vessel showed no external damage, but inside, the creature's vital organs were being compressed into paste. The bioship shuddered once, then went dead, drifting in space like a piece of organic debris. One down, Ben announced, over the communication network. Gravitational weapons are effective against bioship internal structure. Captain Sam Rodriguez took the UES Fury directly into the heart of the Kronak formation. While alien military doctrine called for maintaining safe distances and using superior firepower, human tactics emphasized getting close enough to guarantee kills. The Fury's plasma rams glowed white-hot as the ship approached ramming speed. All hands, brace for impact, Sam ordered as her ship lined up with a bioship 3 times its size. The Fury struck the alien vessel like a missile, its reinforced hull punching through the creature's hide. Plasma rams fired at point-blank range, cooking the bioship from the inside while kinetic charges tore through vital organs. The massive alien ship convulsed and died in seconds. Sam pulled her ship free from the dying bioship and immediately selected another target. The Kronak had superior numbers, but they had never faced an enemy that treated ramming attacks as standard operating procedure. On the bridge of the UES Reaper, Captain Ryan Blake watched his cutting beams slice through Kronak formations like a hot knife through butter. The beams were designed to cause maximum psychological damage to hive mind species. Instead of clean kills, they created spectacular explosions that sent fear through the collective consciousness. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Carl Peterson, The Kronak are trying to retreat into defensive formations. Should we pursue? Ryan smiled coldly. Lieutenant, we did not come here to fight a defensive battle. All ships break formation. Individual hunting patterns. Kill everything that moves. The human fleet dissolved into chaos that terrified the Kronak hive mind. 57 ships suddenly became 57 independent predators, each one attacking different targets with weapons the insects had never seen before. Where the aliens expected coordinated attacks, they found unpredictable violence. The UES Lightning materialized behind a cluster of bioships that were trying to protect a command vessel. Lieutenant Commander Ben Foster activated his ship's experimental cloaking system, a technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien scouts. The Lightning became invisible to Kronak sensors as it closed to knife-fighting range. Fire all weapons, Ben ordered. Gravitational weapons, plasma cannons, and kinetic harpoons fired simultaneously. 3 bioships died in as many seconds, their hulls torn apart by weapons that attacked on multiple levels. The surviving Kronak vessels spun wildly, trying to locate the invisible attacker. Admiral Lisa Stone watched the battle from the command deck of the UES Vengeance. Her flagship carried the heaviest weapons in the human fleet, antimatter torpedoes that could crack a moon in half. While other captains engaged in close combat, Lisa targeted the largest bioships from maximum range. Fire torpedo spread, she ordered her weapons officer. 6 antimatter warheads streaked across space toward a bioship the size of a city. The Kronak tried to intercept the missiles with point defense weapons, but human torpedo design included adaptive shielding and evasive maneuvers. All 6 warheads found their target. The bioship disappeared in a flash of pure energy that lit up half the star system. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding plasma. 20,000 Kronak warriors had been vaporized in an instant. Target the next cluster, Lisa ordered. The Kronak wanted to fight a war of attrition, wearing down human forces with superior numbers. They did not understand that humans preferred to end fights quickly and decisively. The battle moved to the surface of Veltar, as Kronak ground forces found themselves under attack from human marines who had dropped from orbit in stealth pods. Colonel Dan Murphy led the first wave, his power armor bristling with weapons designed to kill insects efficiently. The Kronak ground forces moved in perfect coordination, their weapons firing in calculated patterns that should have swept the landing zones clean. Instead, they found empty ground and sensor ghosts. The humans had scattered the moment they landed, using tactics learned from fighting on a world where cooperation meant survival. Alpha Team hit the processing center, Dan ordered over his suit communication system. Bravo Team take out their communication array. Charlie Team find their landing ships and destroy them. Major Helen Clark led Charlie Team through the ruins of a Villani city, hunting the organic landing craft that had delivered Kronak ground forces. The insect warriors they encountered died quickly and quietly, taken down by weapons that fired explosive rounds designed to punch through chitinous armor. "Sir," called Sergeant Pete Johnson over the team frequency, "we found their ships, 12 biotransports in the main plaza." Helen smiled inside her helmet. "Set charges for maximum effect. We want the explosions visible from orbit." The Kronak had never fought humans before. They expected alien soldiers to follow galactic conventions about civilian protection and proportional response. Instead, they found themselves facing warriors who treated the invasion as a personal insult that demanded the most violent response possible. Back in space, the battle had become a massacre. Human ships moved through the Kronak formation like sharks through a school of fish, killing with mechanical efficiency. Every alien vessel that tried to retreat found itself cut off by human interceptors. Every bioship that attempted to regroup was targeted by antimatter torpedoes. Commander Kate Fisher brought the UES Harbinger alongside a damaged bioship that was leaking atmosphere and biological fluids. The alien vessel was clearly crippled and no longer a threat to anyone. Galactic Military Convention demanded that she accept its surrender and provide medical assistance. Kate activated her cutting beams instead. The bioship split in half, spilling Kronak warriors into the vacuum of space. Kate watched them die without expression before selecting her next target. The insects had come to Veltar to commit genocide. They would receive no mercy from the species that had stopped them. All ships. This is Admiral Stone. Lisa's voice cut through the tactical chatter. Kronak command vessels are attempting to withdraw to the outer system. Do not let them escape. I repeat, no survivors. The human fleet turned as one toward the fleeing command ships. The battle was no longer about saving the Vellani. It had become about sending a message to every predator species in the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they did not play by civilized. On the surface of Veltar, Elder Jean watched explosions light up the night sky as the human fleet systematically destroyed every Kronak vessel in the system. He had never seen such violence, such complete and utter destruction of an enemy force. The old Vellani realized that his people had been saved, but at a cost that would haunt him forever. The humans had not come as liberators or peacekeepers. They had come as exterminators, and they were very good at their job. The Kronak command ship was massive, bigger than anything else in the swarm. Its biohull pulsed with organic light as it tried to reach the edge of the star system, where it could jump to hyperspace. Inside the living vessel, the hive mind processed the impossible reality of what was happening to its forces. In 3 hours of combat, over 200 bioships had been destroyed. The humans fought like nothing the Kronak collective consciousness had ever encountered. They showed no fear, no mercy, and no respect for any military convention. Worse, they seemed to enjoy the killing. Admiral Lisa Stone watched the fleeing command ship on her tactical display. Intelligence reports suggested the massive biovessel contained the genetic memory of the entire Kronak swarm, including the locations of dozens of worlds they planned to consume. If it escaped, the hive mind would adapt to human tactics and return with overwhelming force. All ships converge on the command vessel, Lisa ordered. Do not let it reach hyperspace. The remaining human ships turned toward their final target like a pack of wolves closing on wounded prey. They had lost 7 vessels in the battle, but the crews of those ships had ejected in escape pods before their ships were destroyed. Human. Military doctrine never left people behind when possible. Captain Ryan Blake pushed the UES Reaper to maximum acceleration, racing to intercept the fleeing command ship before it could escape. His heavy cruiser had taken damage during the close quarters fighting, but all weapons systems remained operational. The cutting beams were still hungry for more alien blood. "Sir," called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Carl Peterson. "The command ship is charging its hyperspace drive. We have maybe 10 minutes before it jumps." Ryan studied the tactical display. The Kronak command vessel was 3 times the size of his ship, and probably carried enough weapons to destroy the entire human fleet. Under normal circumstances, attacking it alone would be suicide. These were not normal circumstances. "All power to weapons and engines," Ryan ordered. "Prepare for ramming speed." The Reaper accelerated directly toward the massive bioship like a missile aimed at the heart of the hive mind. Kronak defensive weapons opened fire, filling space with bioplasma that could melt steel. Ryan's ship took hit after hit, armor plates peeling away as the hull temperature rose to dangerous levels. "Hull breach on decks 4 and 7, reported his damage control officer. "We are losing atmosphere. Seal the compartments and keep firing," Ryan replied. The Reaper's cutting beams lashed out at the command ship, slicing through organic armor and vital organs. The massive alien vessel shuddered as critical systems failed, but it continued its desperate run for the hyperspace jump point. Commander Kate Fisher brought the UES Harbinger alongside the command ship from a different angle. Her destroyer carried experimental bioweapons designed specifically for use against living vessels. The weapons had been developed by human scientists who studied captured Kronak tissue samples and found ways to turn their own biology against them. "Fire bioweapons," Kate ordered. Canisters filled with engineered viruses struck the command ship's hull and began eating through the organic armor. Within minutes, massive sections of the bioship's hide were dissolving as the viruses consumed everything they touched. The Kronak command vessel began to list as structural supports failed. On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Admiral Lisa Stone faced a decision that would define humanity's reputation in galactic politics forever. Long-range sensors had detected something that changed everything. The fleeing command ship was not alone. "Admiral," reported her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Jenny Adams, "we are receiving coded transmissions from the command ship. It is communicating with a much larger force approximately 6 light-years away." Lisa studied the sensor data with growing dread. The main Kronak swarm was enormous, containing over 3,000 bioships and support vessels. If they learned about human tactics and capabilities, they would adapt and return with overwhelming force. Every world in this sector would be consumed. "How long until the main swarm arrives?" Lisa asked. "Based on their current course and speed, approximately 4 months, Admiral." Lisa looked at the tactical display showing the crippled command ship, still struggling to reach the hyperspace jump point. Inside that vessel were the genetic memories and tactical data that would allow the main swarm to counter human weapons and tactics. If it escaped, the war would be lost before it truly began. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," she announced over the fleet communication network. "The fleeing command ship has been in contact with a main force of over 3,000 Kronak vessels. If that ship escapes with data about our capabilities, every human colony will be at risk." She paused, knowing that her next words would make her a war criminal by the standards of every civilized species in the galaxy. "We cannot allow any Kronak to survive this engagement. No prisoners, no survivors, no mercy. We end this here and now." Commander Alex Turner brought the UES Storm in for a final attack run on the command ship. His destroyer had been badly damaged in the earlier fighting, but the gravitational weapons were still operational. As he watched the massive bioship struggle toward freedom, he understood what was at stake. "Sir," called his weapons officer, "the command ship is carrying thousands of Kronak. Many of them are probably non-combatants." Alex looked at the tactical display showing Villani cities burning under Kronak occupation. He thought about the processing centers where innocent civilians were being dissolved alive to feed the hive. The Kronak had made their choice when they decided to be predators. "Fire all weapons," Alex ordered. The storm's gravitational weapons tore through the command ship's hull, crushing organic corridors and chambers filled with Kronak personnel. The massive vessel convulsed as its spine snapped, spilling thousands of insect warriors into the vacuum of space. But the bioship was still alive, still trying to reach the hyperspace jump point with its precious cargo of tactical data. "Admiral," Stone realized that conventional weapons would not be enough to stop it in time. "All ships clear the target area," Lisa ordered. "I am firing antimatter torpedoes at maximum yield." The human fleet scattered as the UES Vengeance launched its most powerful weapons. 6 antimatter warheads streaked toward the crippled command ship, each one carrying enough destructive power to level a city. The Kronak vessel had no point defenses left to stop them. The explosion lit up half the star system. When the energy flash faded, nothing remained of the command ship except expanding clouds of superheated plasma. 20,000 Kronak had been vaporized in an instant, along with all their tactical data and genetic memories. On the surface of Veltar, Colonel Dan Murphy led his Marines through the ruins of Kronak ground positions. The insect warriors who had been processing Villani civilians were now nothing more than smoking corpses scattered across the Crystal Plaza. Human weapons designed for maximum psychological impact had turned the alien occupation force into a horror show. "Sir," called Major Helen Clark over the team communication system, "we found the processing centers. The Kronak were dissolving civilians alive to create food for their soldiers." Dan looked at the organic machinery designed to liquefy living beings and felt his anger reach new heights. The insects were not just invaders or conquerors. They were monsters who fed on the suffering of innocent people. "Burn it all," he ordered. "Every piece of Kronak equipment, every biostructure, every trace of their presence. I want nothing left but ashes." The Marines began systematically destroying every Kronak installation on the planet. They used incendiary charges, plasma weapons, and orbital bombardment to ensure that nothing organic would survive. It was overkill by any military standard, but it sent a clear message about what happened to species that preyed on the defenseless. In the command center of his flagship, Admiral Lisa Stone watched the tactical display as the last Kronak vessels were hunted down and destroyed. Human ships pursued every fleeing bioship to the edge of the star system, ensuring that nothing escaped to warn the main swarm. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "all Kronak vessels have been destroyed. No survivors detected." Lisa nodded grimly. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. When the main Kronak swarm arrived in 4 months, they would find a dead system and no information about what had killed their scouts. It would buy time for humanity to prepare defenses and warn potential allies. Elder Gene stood in the ruins of his city, watching human engineers begin emergency repairs on critical infrastructure. The Deathworlders had saved his people, but at a cost that would haunt both species forever. Every Kronak in the system had been systematically exterminated with a thoroughness that shocked even grateful survivors. The old Villani realized that the galaxy had changed forever. There was a new predator among the stars, one that killed other predators with ruthless efficiency. Whether that was good or bad for the future of civilization remained to be seen. The silence in the Veltar system was complete, except for the hum of human salvage operations. Not a single Kronak vessel remained intact. The bioships that had darkened the skies above the crystal cities were now nothing but organic debris, drifting in space, being collected by human recycling ships that turned the remains into raw materials for reconstruction efforts. Elder Jean walked through the main corridor of the UES Vengeance, his steps echoing in the metal hallway. The human flagship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Where Villani ships were built for beauty and comfort, this vessel was designed for one purpose only: to kill efficiently and without mercy. Admiral Lisa Stone waited for him in the observation lounge, standing before a massive window that showed the restoration work taking place around Veltar. Human engineers worked alongside Villani technicians to rebuild what the Kronak had destroyed. The cooperation was remarkable, but Jean could see the fear in his people's eyes whenever they looked at their saviors. "Your species fights unlike any we have encountered," Jean said quietly as he joined the Admiral at the window. "The other races speak of honor in battle, of giving mercy to defeated enemies. You showed no such consideration." Lisa turned to face the Villani elder, her weathered features showing the weight of command decisions that had condemned thousands of living beings to death. "Elder Jean, my species learned long ago that there are some enemies you cannot coexist with. The Kronak would have returned. They would have adapted to our tactics. They would have consumed not just your world, but dozens of others." She gestured toward the reconstruction efforts visible through the window. "Sometimes mercy to monsters is cruelty to the innocent. We chose to be cruel to the monsters." The news of humanity's intervention spread through galactic communication networks faster than the speed of light. The Galactic Council, which had written off the Villani as acceptable losses, suddenly found themselves facing a new reality. There was a species in the galaxy that fought not for profit, territory, or survival, but for principle. More importantly, they fought with an effectiveness that terrified even their allies. On the Council station orbiting the Altarian homeworld, President Marcus Webb of the Altarian Federation stared at the battle reports in disbelief. 57 ships had destroyed a Kronak swarm that the combined galactic military had considered unstoppable. The tactical analysis was even more disturbing than the casualty figures. They did not just defeat the Kronak, his military advisor explained. They exterminated them. Every single vessel, every ground force, every trace of their presence was systematically eliminated. The humans fought like they were cleansing a plague from the galaxy. General Krex of the Thaxon Empire read the same reports with growing unease. His warrior culture understood the necessity of violence, but the human approach to warfare was something else entirely. They did not fight for glory or honor. They fought to eliminate threats permanently, with a cold efficiency that spoke of a species shaped by constant survival pressure. "Send a diplomatic message to this Admiral Stone," Krex ordered his aide. "The Thaxon Empire wishes to establish formal contact with the human military." Similar messages came from every major power in the galaxy. The species that had ignored the Villani cry for help now desperately wanted to know more about the Deathworlders who had answered it. Captain Ryan. Blake stood in the ruins of a Villani city that was already being rebuilt with human assistance. Around him, human engineers and Villani workers collaborated to restore what the Kronak had destroyed. But Blake knew that the real change was not in the rebuilt cities or the saved lives. It was in the message that humanity had sent to every predator species in the galaxy. "Sir," called his communications officer, Lieutenant Carl Peterson, "we are receiving transmission requests from 17 different species. They all want to establish diplomatic contact." Blake smiled grimly. "Tell them to contact Earth directly. We are military, not diplomats. Our job was to kill the Kronak, and that job is finished." The diplomatic implications of the battle were already becoming clear. Every aggressor species in the galaxy now had to consider the possibility that their next target might have human protection. Pirates who had raided merchant vessels for centuries suddenly found their trade routes patrolled by ships that showed no mercy to predators. Commander Kate Fisher completed her final report from the bridge of the UES Harbinger as the human fleet prepared to return to Earth space. The military victory was complete, but the political ramifications were just beginning. The galaxy's power balance had shifted overnight, and no one knew what the long-term consequences would be. "Ma'am," reported her intelligence officer. "Long-range sensors are detecting movement in the outer rim territories. Several aggressive species appear to be withdrawing from planned military operations." Kate nodded. The message was already spreading through the galactic underworld. Humanity had announced its presence by committing the most thorough act of xenocide in recorded history. Every pirate, slaver, and conqueror now had to wonder if their next victim might have friends on the Deathworld. On the surface of Veltar, Major Helen Clark supervised the destruction of the last Kronak biostructures. The insect processing centers, where civilians had been dissolved alive, were being vaporized with plasma charges, ensuring that no trace of the horror would remain. It was unnecessary from a tactical standpoint, but it sent a clear message about human values. "Major," called Sergeant Pete Johnson, "the Villani are asking if we want them to preserve any of the Kronak technology for study." Helen looked at the organic machinery designed to torture innocent beings to death. "Burn it all, Sergeant. Some knowledge is not worth having." The human fleet began its departure from Veltar 3 days after the battle ended. As the ships prepared for the jump to hyperspace, Admiral Stone recorded her final log entry of the operation. Personal log, Admiral Lisa Stone. "The Veltar operation is complete. All Kronak forces have been eliminated with 0 survivors. The Villani are safe, and reconstruction is proceeding ahead of schedule. However, I am concerned about the long-term implications of our actions." She paused, looking out at the stars where other species were probably planning their responses to humanity's sudden appearance. "We came here to save innocent lives, and we accomplished that mission. But in doing so, we revealed ourselves to a galaxy that may not be ready for the kind of protection we offer. We are not peacekeepers or negotiators. We are predators who hunt other predators. The question now is whether the galaxy will see us as saviors or as the next threat they need to eliminate." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind only a small defensive squadron and construction crews to help rebuild the Villani civilization. But the impact of their intervention would ripple through the galaxy for generations to come. 3 months later, the main Kronak swarm arrived at the edge of the Veltar system, expecting to find a consumed world ready for harvesting. Instead, they found human defense platforms, Villani-human hybrid technology, and a message buoy containing footage of their destroyed scouts. The message was simple and direct. "This system is under human protection. The inhabitants are not to be harmed. Find easier prey or join your scouts in death." The Kronak hive mind, for the first time in its evolutionary history, felt something it had never experienced before. Fear. The creatures from the Deathworld had not just defeated their scouts. They had erased them so completely that no genetic memory remained. The main swarm turned away from Veltar and began the long journey back to their home territory. But across the galaxy, in the hidden bases of pirates and the war rooms of aggressive empires, a new understanding began to emerge. The Deathworlders were not just willing to fight for strangers. They were capable of winning those fights with a thoroughness that redefined the rules of galactic warfare. Elder Jean stood on the rebuilt crystal platform above the blue waters of Veltar, watching human ships patrol the edge of his system. His people were safe, their cities restored, their future secure. But the price of that security was the knowledge that they were now protected by creatures who had committed genocide to save them. The old Villani wondered if the galaxy was ready for such protectors. Only time would tell whether humanity would be remembered as liberators or as the monsters that other monsters feared. Either way, the age of easy conquest was over. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they did not play by civilized rules.